When I was a little girl, I was taught to call my grandma on my father's side abuela and my grandpa abuelo. I learned that this is how you say grandma and grandpa in Spanish. At the time, I didn't understand why my abuela was brown like me and why my abuelo was white. I had been told abuelo and abuela met in Chiapas, Mexico, which was where my dad was born too. It wasn't until college where I found out the true story, the love story, behind my grandparents' relationship. I was a teacher in Chiapas, working alongside my father, who is the principal of the school, and my mother, who was also a teacher. I did radio announcing for Chiapas Radio on the side too. I had always wanted to be a radio host, so when I heard about a contest to win a job at the station, I signed up. We had to perform various acts like singing, doing improv to show we were quick on our feet, and reading lines to show personality. I was one of the 6 contestants to win. I was so excited I got to be on the show. Back then, to my village, it was like winning American Idol. That's where I met your dad's father, my abuela said, as her tone of voice grew solemn. I was so in love and things moved quickly. Yes, they moved quickly, all right. I soon found out he liked to drink, which made him like to hit. He liked to slap, and he liked to hurt. It's a part of my life I don't like to look back on. I was pregnant with your father too, and it wasn't long until after I told my husband about the baby that he left, and I never saw him again. I had the baby and I named him Jose. My family helped me raise him while I worked. I still taught and I still hosted the show on the radio. I wasn't going to stop doing what I loved for a career, and I couldn't stop because now I had a little mouth to feed. I was sad because in a way, I felt like I was starting over, and it was hard to get past what had happened. It was 1967, my abuela said. I took off a whole week from work to visit my brother in Mexico City, who is graduating from medical school. I had a ticket to ride the bus from Tuxtla Gutierrez, Chiapas, up to Mexico City. I was running late for some reason, and today I would call that reason fate, but back then, it was because of something that held me back from being on time. My abuela arrived at the bus stop, and you can imagine the feeling of running up to your bus as it begins to drive off with the dust trailing behind, almost as if it were in spite. In a sense, my abuela was late for her bus, but she was not late for her destiny. As the dust cleared and settled on the ground, she begrudgingly walked up to the ticket counter. Que pase el siguiente en la fila, or next in line please, said the ticket officer. My abuela was able to get a ticket for the next bus to Mexico City after a little bit of pleading. She boarded, settled into her seat, and waited in anticipation for the driver to take off. She already was late as it was. I imagine my abuelo had heavy footsteps for being a tall Anglo ex-corpsman of Texas A&M from Denton, Texas. I imagine the footsteps may have caused some attention to be drawn towards him if his light skin wasn't enough. As my abuelo walked down the aisle of the bus, he took a seat next to a small, dark-skinned, dark-featured woman, my abuela. My abuelo quickly learned that my abuela didn't know any English. He himself was lacking in the language department as well. However, he came prepared with an English to Spanish dictionary. It turns out he had missed the first bus too. After they found that out, they spent the whole 2 hours and 25 minutes of the bus ride going back and forth, flipping between pages of the English to Spanish dictionary and getting to know each other. 2 worlds, 2 cultures, and 2 lives collided that day. Neither would ever be the same. The bus arrived and my brother was waiting for me to pick me up, my abuela said. Your abuelo gave me his address and told me to write to him. He also invited me to go to the National Museum of Anthropologia, but I didn't go. I didn't write for a while either. I was scared to be in romance again. But after some encouragement from my brother, I finally sent him a letter. And 2 weeks later, a letter came in from your abuelo Sam. My grandparents exchanged letters until my abuela agreed to let my abuelo Sam visit her. Abuelo intended to make this trip to formally ask for her hand in marriage. I was excited except your abuelo didn't know about my baby, she said. She knew my abuelo may not have accepted the fact that she had already had a child. It could break the relationship. It could mean the end to this dream. It was the day abuelo Sam was to arrive, and my abuela and her brother picked him up from the bus stop where they first met. She told her brother to wait in the car, and they sat down on a bench, and she revealed her news. Sam didn't say anything for a few moments, my abuela said. I was getting ready to stand up and leave, but before I did, he said, "If I love the tree, I also love its branches." And she accepted his hand in marriage. It was an exciting day. My abuelo had previously sent some friends down to Mexico to take my abuela's measurements for her wedding dress size and shoe size. He then sent a suitcase to her with a wedding dress that she had picked out and shoes to match, and everything fit just right. A celebration in my abuela's village took place. It was their wedding day. A red convertible Porsche zoomed down the streets, a sight no one had seen before. My abuelo appeared in valor in an electric steed, and people came out of their homes to watch their very own Mexican Cinderella marry her white knight. After they were married, my abuela moved to Denton, Texas, and a year later, my father joined them in Texas for his 5th birthday. My abuela and abuelo lived a wonderful life together. In 2001, my abuelo was diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease, and they told each other they loved one another every day until his passing in 2004. My abuela still lives in Denton, and she finds joy in teaching English to Spanish students, which was something she struggled with when she first moved over here to the United States. My abuela told me she wouldn't have known what a good relationship should be until she experienced a bad one. She also told me her pain from that relationship was not the end, that she was patient and kept moving forward, believing that the best was yet to come.